a panel discussion titled Muay Thai Training 2.0 From Tradition to Science. The discussion promises to dive into the fascinating evolution of Muay Thai training methodologies, integrating scientific insights with time-honored practices. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed panelist, Dr. Giuseppe Cimadoro, a senior lecturer from St. Mary's University in Twickenham, United Kingdom. Dr. Cimadoro brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise that will surely enrich our understanding of modern approaches to this ancient art. Let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Giuseppe Cimadoro again. ขอเสียงปรบมือเสียงดังๆเลยค่ะขอบคุณค่ะ
But I could not go to university at that time. I was actually going to also talk about how Brazil became, you can talk in our language. It's a very interesting.
Sawadee krab. It is a true honor to stand here today as the speaker for this session of the first ever international conference of Muay Thai in Ayutthaya. I'm Giuseppe Cimadoro, senior lecturer in strength and conditioning at St. Mary's University, Twickenham in UK, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Associate Professor Tozak, Head of Hub of Muay Thai and Kasetsart University Muay Thai Academy. Thank you, Assistant Professor Nirom Lee, Head of Sports Science Department, for the invitation and the warm, very, very warm hospitality. I express my gratitude to the Faculty of Education and the Development and the Faculty of Sports and Health Science at Kasetsart University for hosting this prestigious event. I'd also like to acknowledge the support of the National Research Council of Thailand and the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation for their contributions to this conference. Thank you, all of you, for being here. I look forward to sharing this session with you. Let's start now. Okay, I also going to be a little bit more technical than the previous session, and I actually enjoyed the previous session where the president of ONE Championship was illustrating the work that he has done, and I also enjoyed the final discussion about pizza, because as you know, I'm Italian. Okay, so today the session is titled Muay Thai 2.0, From Tradition to Science. I've been invited by Assistant Professor Niram Lee with the goal to try to help the Muay Thai in Thailand to develop the training, taking advantage from new methodology that can be built using scientific knowledge. So, first of all, why Muay Thai for me? So where do I start from? For some reason, everything started with Dr. Yoton Senan in 1993, who was coaching Jimmy Caminada, who from Europe arrived in Thailand to learn Muay Thai. In turn, he passed the knowledge to Crew Francesco Bizzini. They both opened the Sidiotong Swiss branch in Switzerland. And then again, in turn, Crew Francesco Bizzini coached Crew Gianluca Chiloiro, who had his own academy in Italy. And then I became an athlete of Gianluca Chiloiro, an athlete in kickboxing and K1 mainly, but also having some influence of Muay Thai because I was involved in that environment. During this journey, I got interested in human performance. And so I started my academic journey with a bachelor degree in movement science and sport. From Italy, I moved to France to have a joint master degree in sports science. And while I was in France, I created my own club where I was coaching and acting also as a strength and conditioning coach for my athletes in kickboxing, K1 style, and Muay Thai. When I was doing my doctorate, I had to move to UK to finish my study, and the conditions to carry on with a club and training were a little bit more difficult, and I was busy with my studies. So I have switched to collaboration to help some of my friends involved in the Muay Thai world to improve Muay Thai from a physical perspective. I have collaborated with Accademia Arti Marziali Piccolo Drago, Yamabushi Gym in Milan, Mushin Team in Como, 7 Muay Thai Rayong, Sigta Muay Thai in London and Bangkok, and the Black Eagle Gym again in Italy, in Bergamo. All of these people were somewhat involved in the Muay Thai world, and they helped me understanding Muay Thai regulations, the culture, and the need of professional Nak Muay. Let's see now what the future, where the future will take me from now onwards. So, sessions topics for today. I have 4 main topics, and only one is the core of this session. So, the first topic is about addressing the problem of quantity of training, facing the strongest traditional belief. We all know that in Muay Thai, we have the tendency to follow the training that coaches taught us when we were training to fight. Then I will address some training programming principles so that we can understand why we have certain problems with traditional training. The main part of this session is about the needs analysis. The needs analysis means we are analyzing Muay Thai fights to understand the demand of the sport so that we can select appropriate exercises to enhance the performance of NAC Muay. Finally, I will be introducing some concepts about monitoring for fatigue and testing, and at the end of the presentation, Mathias 7 Muay Thai will join me to share his experience as a fighter on the topic of weight cut and weight management. So, the problem of traditional training. We can see here nice people running by the sea, which I would like to do every day, but I can't because in London it rains every day, so it's an activity that I cannot do. And then it's not a mistake. I'm not changing the topic, but I have a question. So we have Usain Bolt, the world record over 100 meters, and we have the person who set the record for the marathon. They both very expert with running. I think we cannot teach them anything about running. Now I have a question. Have you ever seen these guys training doing shadow boxing? Yeah? Do you think these guys in the morning, they wake up at 5 a.m. and they do Muay Thai shadow boxing to set the record for 100 meters and the marathon? I've been an athletics coach, and I've never seen someone in the track and field environment to do shadow boxing to set the world record in their own discipline, because shadow boxing has nothing to do with running, has nothing to do with proper running. So, long and slow running in Muay Thai has many benefits. So I think that, to a certain extent, is also a good thing. So general fitness can be improved, especially if someone is starting out. It develops mental attributes because you have to wake up every day, you have to be disciplined to carry on doing the same thing. You don't need equipment. It is a group activity. You do it with your peers. You can monitor the heart rate. It is a routine. It feels good because a routine feels good. I do always the same thing, so I feel safe. Comfort zone, I carry on doing it. And it's also a benefit for unfit people. But we also have some problems, and we have many problems. One problem is that we may have poor running technique because NAC Muay are not runners. So they cannot run like Usain Bolt. They cannot run like someone running the marathon. They have to learn how to run, but they don't know the technique of running. Now, let's make it clear from the start. Muay Thai is a traumatic sport. When we fight, we obviously have pain, and we can have problems that we take with us in training. So one thing that we want to avoid is to perform some type of training that is adding, on top of these problems, other problems. And I think this is already a good enough reason to think about it. It is a general activity that has nothing to do with the typical movement of Muay Thai. So there is a lack of specific adaptations. We can build up a lot of fatigue because of the workload for no reason. It does not involve upper body while it's in Muay Thai. It may be boring in the long run. And we have unnecessary impact on the ground because we are running and we may not know how to run properly. And that's another problem. And traditionally, it is also done with high volume and low intensity. So now, obviously, if I critique something, you want an alternative solution. So I think that one solution could, for example, be the rowing. Now, the main advantage of rowing is that we are starting to involve the upper body. And it is easier from a technical perspective. We don't have trauma compared to running. We can develop the same mental attributes. We have several metrics that can be monitored because we have a screen that is giving us the power output and other measurements. It involves the upper body that is crucial for Muay Thai. We can split lower and upper body if we want to. We can just pull with the arms, or we can just work with the legs. We can adapt the exercise to what we need. There is no impact. Can be done inside the camp. No need to go outside the camp, so you can stay on the spot. And it is a benefit for trained athletes because all these reasons that I've been mentioning. Now, it also has limitation, of course. It requires the equipment, so maybe some they cannot afford it. So it may create boredom, and it's a new activity. So anything that is new is scary because I've never done it before. So I don't want to take my risk to do something that is new, and I don't know whether it's going to help me to improve my performance or not, okay? Of course, there are other solutions. This is just an example. We can use the assault bike, we can use the bicycle, but the principle is that we have to move away from something that is not giving us the benefit that we believe. So the problem of quantity of training and low intensity work, I have summarized here very briefly a few reasons that we are going to see now in a second with the next slide. So high intensity training has the potential to improve performance, especially in sports like Muay Thai, where we have involvement of energy systems like aerobic metabolism and anaerobic metabolism. So here we have an evidence where they have compared high volume and low intensity versus low volume and high intensity in swimming. It doesn't matter if it's not Muay Thai, because we have different sports that are showing us different evidence, and there is a consensus that high intensity training will likely have a positive effect also in Muay Thai if we would run an intervention study. So what they found is that for a period of 4 weeks, high training volume had no advantage compared to high intensity training of lower volume. So that means that if you train with high volume and you get the same result, you are wasting your time because it takes more time to run for longer time. It takes more time to do an exercise for longer time. So you can save time by reducing the volume of work and performing high intensity training because you know you're going to have the same result and there is no need to waste your time. Second evidence, training for intense exercise performance, high intensity or high volume training. So 6 to 8 sessions over 2 to 4 weeks of high intensity interval training. And this was obviously an exercise performed closer to the VO2 max. That is a parameter that we use to determine a training intensity. And the rest was done either with low intensity exercise, maybe, let's imagine in Muay Thai, shadow boxing, or complete rest, sitting down or standing. So what they found is that the intense exercise performance improved 2 to 4% in well-trained athletes. So this is giving you another very important information. For professional Nak Muay that are already well-trained is even better. So well-trained athlete will benefit even more from this type of training. Another evidence showing that the distribution of rest period will have an effect on performance. So here we had a group training every day and a group training every other 2 days. So defined as a short program and a long program. So in both groups, they increased the metabolism enzymes with less training volume. So less is more. You know, work hard, work hard, work hard, keep working, keep doing. Reo, 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 you say here, yeah? Less is more. Sabay, sabay. Yeah, less is more, yeah. Evidence is saying this. So Nak Muay will be happy because they don't like to do more if they can do less. So let them rest a little bit more because they will be more performant. When they fight in Rajadamner, the entertainment will be higher because they are not experiencing level of fatigues that they may experience if they train in a different way. So the studies also showed that without proper recovery, so the short program where it was training every day for 2 weeks, despite the same increase in metabolism enzymes, the performance decreased. So you think that you train every day, high volume, high intensity, because otherwise you don't feel prepared, or you think you don't feel prepared. But if you measure the performance, if there is a way to measure performance, evidence says that you are performing very badly compared to the other solution. So you rather want to pay attention to this because fighting is entertaining for adrenaline, fighting is entertaining for a number of reasons, but it can become even more entertaining if athletes will fight in the ring at the top of their performance rather than suboptimal performance. So in the scientific world, we have the pyramid of evidence. This means that we go from expert opinion. You may be a crew Muay and you have an opinion about an exercise. You are an expert in technique. You are an expert in strength training. And so you say, I think that. So this information cannot be trusted at all because that's not an evidence. Then we have reports where we report the data that we can collect when we work with athletes, case control studies, and as we go up, so we go to the top of the pyramid, we can start trusting more and more the information because the experiment is becoming more and more controlled until we get the top of the pyramid where we perform studies trying to analyze all the possible studies that are available for a specific topic. We get rid of those with low quality. We just consider those with high quality. And we try to understand where is the consensus. And this is what I've done here. So I have used the best evidence possible that I could have to understand if low volume, high intensity interval training is a time efficient strategy to improve cardiometabolic health and body composition. Okay? So I can, let's say, trust this information. So they have looked at 6,311 publications. And among those, they have managed to get only 21 very good studies that are satisfying criteria that you need to satisfy so that you can include them in the analysis. So they obviously, among these 21 studies, they selected only the studies where the high intensity exercise was lasting less than 5 minutes, and this is the typical pattern of a high intensity training where you have effort, recovery, effort, and so on. And the total duration of the work was less than 15 minutes. 15 minutes, not 2 hours, 15 minutes, okay? So they measured the VO2 max, they measure the blood pressure, they measure body composition. Now, you know what? They found that low volume, high intensity training, less is more, remember, had no difference compared to moderate high intensity training volume. And the volume was between 14 to 47% of the time less. And this was the same also when the low volume, high intensity training was compared to high intensity training, volume training. And the time to do the exercise was half to 94% of the time less. And they found absolutely no difference. Less than 15 minutes. In a summary, so performing low volume, high intensity training at higher intensity drives higher cardiorespiratory fitness gains, and probably, as an hypothesis, also better for body composition, because they found that the same type of training was also reducing percentage of fat. So win-win. It's not only about metabolic response, it's also about body composition. And we know we have a problem with weight cut and weight management in Muay Thai, and Mathias later on will share his experience about that. So I think is another very good point. Let's go now and address the second problem that we have from a traditional perspective. Crunches. Crunches forever. When I was an athlete at the very beginning of my journey as a sport person, the crunch was one of the most important exercise in training, and you had to do it at the beginning for the warm-up, at the end to cool down. It was not a cool down, but it was like a cool down back in the time. But the problem is that the crunches are not targeting the muscles that the Nak Muay needs to generate the necessary stability so that the posture can be balanced at all time where possible during fighting. these muscles are in particular the internal obliques that we have on the both sides of the body, the transversus abdominis in particular, and the multifidus, which is at the back of, in the back. So another problem with this type of training is that we are straining the neck. So we spend a lot of time performing clinching, and clinching is hard work to do. We are pulling the neck of the opponent, we are trying to make him losing the balance, we work on the neck, so it can be traumatic again, like I was saying about the running with impacts and so on. Why do we have to add further stress when we are already having stress because of the nature of the sport? Let's get rid of it. There is no need to add further stress because you will get injured. Now, I am amazed by the strengths, the skills of Nak Muay in Thailand, but most of the fighter of the years happens around 18, 19, 20 years old, and the career is finished. In other sports, the career carries on until 30 years old, 35. So why we don't try to address this and extend the life, the career of a fighter like all other sports so that we can enjoy a little bit more the skills of these fighters without injuring them, without adding undue stress, I think is another valid point. Professor Stuart McGill from Waterloo University in Canada is an expert in spine issues. And in his laboratory, he has demonstrated that the crunch generates a mechanism of injury. When you are doing crunches, it's like if you're taking the car and deliberately going to crash against the wall, because it is a mechanism of injury for the lumbar spine. So when the spine is flexed into that position, we'll damage sooner. And we will see now in the next slide that is pointing out to some anatomical concept. So what happens here is that when you're doing the crunch, obviously the lumbar portion of the spine is bending, okay? Now, what happens when the vertebrae are bending is that the disc that is in between, it's sitting between the vertebrae, is compressing all the time. We are putting stress on it until it will break. We're gonna get injured, we're gonna have pain. This means I cannot train, this means I cannot lift weight, this means I cannot fight, and I can carry on and on and on, okay? Now, someone can argue, yeah, but I've always been doing this. I have no pain, I do this and I feel okay. Well, I'm not saying that you do 10 crunches and then you're gonna have a problem. It's like a bridge, okay? Let's say we have a bridge and we have vans and cars going over the bridge. If the stress is okay, the bridge will take it. But at some point, eventually, the bridge will collapse. Actually, it happened a few days ago in Bangkok. So, spinal tolerance. So that means that we have loading. We can load, we can do crunches and crunches and crunches. At some point, we will break it. Whether you like it or not, it will happen. I don't know when, but if you know that it will happen, avoid to start to create this problem in the first place. It's better. My colleague has worked with Buakau for a number of years. Buakau used to do over 1,000 crunches per day. 1,000, you know, is 10 times 100. Right now, if I do 50, probably I'm dead. So 1,000 is a lot. You know, when my colleague put him in this position, which is a very simple exercise, you can tell it's a very simple exercise, and this guy could not last 30 seconds. 30 seconds. 1,000 crunches in this position, it could not last 30 seconds. But this position is very similar to the clinch, this position is very similar to the blocks. This position is very important in Muay Thai. Balance is very important in Muay Thai. Balance is scored in Muay Thai, in traditional Muay Thai. Thanks, Roberto, for explaining all the regulations very well over 15 years. So there is a problem here, yeah? There is a problem because 1,000 crunches, you know, it must be very good. Wow, 1,000 crunches. No, there is a problem. these are not the muscles that are necessary to strike an opponent. They be necessary to a certain extent to protect the body when we receive the strikes, but there are other ways that we can use to work out the same muscles without making the bridge collapsing. Because Buakao, when he joined my colleague for training, could not lift weights because he had pain in the back. And this pain in the back was not the result of fighting, was the result of training. So I think we need to think a little bit more about that, because someone like Buakao is a treasure. He's a national treasure in Thailand. He's a worldwide treasure. We rather want him to fight as long as possible rather than shortening his career, because we love people with skills. So what we can do instead? Professor McGill from Waterloo University suggests to start with the 3 big exercises. Obviously, this is a starting point, okay? So a starting point means that there are progression required, there are many alternatives, but I'm just providing an example. So this is a modified crunch. So they have measured electrical activity to understand whether the transversal abdominis was contracting as expected by placing a hand under the lumbar spine, so that instead of pivoting around the hip and pulling the neck, we pivot around the chest to squeeze the muscles and activate the transversus abdominis by forcefully breathing out, because breathing out naturally will activate the transversus abdominis. So it's an additional clever strategy to make this muscle working. But of course, if we want to work the rectus abdominis, because we want to improve the level of protection around the body, we can do the crunch. Why not sitting on the Swiss ball? It's supporting the lumbar spine. So we are reducing the stress. We can still pivot around the chest level, and it will burn. They will like it. Okay, you have to buy the Swiss ball. They take a lot of space. But if this athlete will fight for 10 years more, I think it worth the investment from a business perspective. So I move on now with the second exercise, which is the bear dog or Superman. This exercise, again, with the same research technique, has been shown to activate another muscle important for spine stability, which is the multifidus. And again, I repeat it, so I want you to understand, it's a starting point. We need to overload the athlete. We need to create imbalances. We can change the exercise. It will be good for someone, may not be good for someone else. Obviously, the expertise of the coach will be important here. So then we have the side plank. The side plank is a very good exercise to activate the internal obliques. Internal obliques are very important when we are striking with middle kicks, because we have some sort of lateral flexion during the motion that is important when we are striking. As you can see, this is the easy version. Then we can extend the leg so that we increase the lever arm. If we increase the lever arm, it becomes a little bit more complex. We can challenge the athlete. And then again, we can add the weight, we can overload the athlete, we can change the position, and so on. Now, how does it work? Because I know some of you may ask how many sets, how many reps. Well, generally, you can go up to 5 minutes, and then if you can reach 5 minutes, then you overload the athlete, and then you aim again for 5 minutes, and you overload the athlete. You can carry on forever, okay? So there is also evidence showing that because of oxygen saturation within the muscles, you may want to have breaks and sort of having an interval type of work, 10 seconds in tension, a few seconds off, 10 seconds in tension, a few seconds off, up to 5 minutes. And it may also be a good variation to avoid boredom of doing the same thing multiple times every day, over and over again. So in a summary, long, slow intensity running, it does not train what the Nak Muay needs. It does not train what the Nak Muay needs. We don't know yet what the Nak Muay needs, because I will be speaking about it in a second, but surely it does not. It does not enhance muscle power to resist low kicks. No. Nak Muays are not Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt may have strong legs, but he set the world record. I'm not even sure that he could cope with Mathias low kick, for example. So in any case, it does not enhance muscle power. Crunch, it is a possible mechanism of injury. Basically, you are telling the athlete, I want you to get injured. Not today, remember, there is a tolerance. in 2 years, in 3 years, in 4 years, all of a sudden, the bridge at some point will collapse at some point. All of a sudden. Don't blame the athlete, blame yourself if you don't ask yourself the right question. Is it right what I'm asking the athlete to do? Don't blame the Nak Muay. You are asking the Nak Muay to do the exercise. It's not the Nak Muay that comes to see you and asks to do crunches. You have given the Nak Muay the habit to do it. You have given the Nak Muay the habit to run every day in the morning. It's you, the crew. It's not the Nak Muay. Remember that. It's very important. Don't blame the athlete. Excessive volume of work, build up of non-wanted fatigue. So why I have to waste my time and build up fatigue and get tired and then have an uncomfortable fight when I know that there is no need for it? Right, so I think you know very well this guy. I was a kid, but I know he was a superstar in Thailand, Ramon Dekker. Training program principles. 1 week of training is not enough. I'm fully aware that sometime we receive a call, there is an opponent, we need to fight, we need to be ready and go. So this is a problem. Now, I'm not here to suggest that you should not fight, because I think my job is to work around the need of the athlete. It's not the athlete that has to work around the science. Just to make it clear, I come from a practical background in the first place. So I'm fully aware that sometimes there are things that have to be done. But they have to be done by bearing in mind certain principles that are very important. Now, these are the most important principles in training in general for any sport that we have in the world, okay? The first principle is the principle of overload. It means that we have to overload the athlete, we have to overload the exercise that the athlete is doing so that we can drive enhancement of performance, okay? I'm just giving a stupid example as an analogy. If I'm kicking the bag, I'm better off putting a sandbag on attached to the ankle to overload the kick. I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm just giving you an analogy to make you understand what overload means. Then we have the progressivity principle. It means that sub by, you build up the training, not all of a sudden you go and you have to hit the pad as hard as you can because by doing it you become better. No. Sub by in this case is perfect. Yeah? Progressivity means improve the difficulty of training sub by. Specificity. So Muay Thai is a beautiful sport because it allows us to see beautiful skills. Think about Senchai. Beautiful skills. Now, these skills can be negatively affected by general training because general training, we know from evidence that may affect the coordination of movement, meaning that the athlete will lose this ability to flow, to beautifully move. And generally, when you see someone and you think he's beautifully moving, it means that the skills are very high. Okay, I know it's subjective what I'm saying, but it makes practical sense. So specificity means that the exercises that we perform, they have to satisfy certain criteria so that the enhancement of performance that we obtain when we are performing these exercises is then used when we are fighting to satisfy the demand of the sport from a metabolic perspective and from a neuromuscular perspective. Of course, we have to individualize. But in my experience, what I see is that in a Muay Thai camp, you love to individualize the technical and tactical training of each athlete, and you go mad about that. Like, it's not possible to have a discussion with someone passionate about these things because this athlete needs this. This athlete is a Muay Cow. This athlete is, I don't know, just punching, okay? But when it comes to strength training or running, go out and run all together. Yeah, you're all the same. You know all the same. So why when you're doing technique and tactical training, they are all different? And all of a sudden, when they do something you don't understand, they are all the same. There is something wrong, yeah? So even individualizing the training for physical conditioning has the same importance of when you individualize the training for tactical reason. It's exactly the same things. And this is something that always drove me mad because I never understood this passion around technique and tactic. And then when it comes to press-ups or crunches, we just say, yeah, just do something that looks like a press-up of crunches and no matter what. No, it doesn't work like that. We have to pay the same level of care even when we do these exercises. The principle of reversibility, it means that if you stop training, your performance will decrease. Very simple. I will not spend more words on this. Recovery is important. We have seen before that sometimes we do training where we're wasting our time, so resting, it may be very useful. And then we also have another principle, which is diminishing returns. Diminishing returns means that at the beginning of a given form of training, everyone can improve, even doing simple things. If I have a new Nak Muay who is very skilled with technique, with tactical behavior and intelligence, but is not good with physical conditioning, even if I ask the Nak Muay to go and run up and down the stairs, he will improve. But it's not me good. It's just the principle that is telling us that if you have never trained at doing squats, if you never trained at doing squat jumps, if you never trained at doing bench press, you will massively improve. But that's not because the coach is very good. It's because we are leveraging the fact that we have diminishing return. So the great coach is the one who's capable to train an athlete who is really very good, and the margin of improvement is so little that if you don't know what you're doing, you will not get any further improvement. Now in practice, this manifests with, I start training this athlete who's very good. Now that I'm doing strength training, I'm doing endurance training, look how they improved. Yes, of course, they didn't do it before. So whether you have done it or someone else would have done it, the results would have been very likely the same, because the starting point was so low that the margin of improvement was so high that, you see what I mean? So the specificity principle, again, is the most important to me, because in a sport where skills are dominant, you really have to pay attention how you train athletes, because you don't want to ruin the beautiful skills of these athletes. So understanding the mechanics of a kick, understanding the metabolical aspect, understanding that in combat sport we also need to be clever. In the first place, in Muay Thai, we have an opponent that is trying to manipulate me to win. Manipulate. So it's not a sport where I just close my eyes, I'm gonna fight, and then I hope I'm gonna hit him and knock out. You know, it's difficult maybe to figure out this abstract, because it does happen over milliseconds as we are fighting, but the brain is thinking what we want to do, how we want to approach the fight, is happening constantly. And this is what makes the difference between Senchai and someone else. This ability to understand what the opponent is about to do, will do, or how to face a situation that is difficult, that's something, again, that you should consider. In general, when we train, we start with general exercises and we end up with specific exercise. But this is the typical type of concept that is applied commonly across sport in general. But each single discipline will have dominances. It means that there are disciplines where the general work may need to be split 50-50. There are disciplines like gymnastics. And for me, Muay Thai is not very different from gymnastics in terms of skills, because you really need fine skills, motor control. So for me, in Muay Thai, this general work has to be as low as possible. It's not the squat that will improve your performance. And remember what I said before. It will massively improve the performance of the squat if you have never done it before. Try to do the squat until you reach your limit, and then this is your zero. Your zero is when the athlete has been already trained doing this. This is where you have to show me that the squat will improve the kick or other type of performances. Because if we start with an athlete who was doing strength training badly or was not doing strength training at all, it's very easy to improve. It's very easy. It's difficult when the athlete is already well trained. This is where you have to show the difference. And the difference can be shown if you reduce the amount of general work, because in Muay Thai, I will keep repeating myself, skills are dominant, even if you are an aggressive fighter. Okay, so now we reached the point where the core of the session will unravel, the needs analysis of Muay Thai. And I will try to challenge some concept deliberately, because the goal with this first international conference is to inspire people, is to inspire academics, colleagues, researchers to drive Muay Thai from tradition to science. So Muay Thai 2.0, that's why the title. So Muay Thai worldwide is also known as the art of 8 limbs. We can use elbows, we can use knees, we can use kicks, we can use punches, and we are also clinching. But this happens if you have good cognitive skills. These cognitive skills are defined here. You have to anticipate the opponent. You have to make a decision. Is it kick better than a punch? Is it better to clinch? Is it better to change my strategy? On top of what the corner is shouting at you. And by the way, sometimes you cannot even listen, so it's irrelevant. Attention. Can you pay attention? Attention comes from vision. I'm not going to name any fighters, but there are fighters that you can clearly see how they track the opponent with the eyes, with a level of attention that is clearly very high, no need to measure. It's so obvious. Sometimes something, when it's so obvious, you don't need to measure it. And these athletes tend to be the best because they know what they're doing. They know what they're looking at. They know what they want to achieve to win the fight. Information processing, the brain, in few milliseconds, so it's not something that you can observe, will make a decision. And then you have to transfer your skills, because you can train every day in the same way, hitting the pad, doing the work with your opponent, having the crew that is showing you 1,000 techniques. But when you are fighting, you never know how you're gonna balance, how you're gonna move, you're gonna go forward, you're gonna go backward. There are all these elements that will force you to strike all the time in a different way. It's not athletics. It's not athletics where I do a movement, and this movement has to be repeated all the time in the exact same way if you want to maximize the performance. This is a sport where a number of things can happen, and you keep changing the way that you're moving. Even if visually you cannot see it, movement has a good variability, and it is a strategy to ensure that the goal can be achieved. And I will talk about it a little bit more later on. So, strength and conditioning, it's only a support to the skills. The dominance must be tactical intelligence, or call it the way you want, cleverness. Use the brain. Technique is the most important thing. But the problem is that if strength and conditioning starts becoming dominant, time-wise, with a workload, with the type of exercises, then you are changing this dominance. And even if strength and conditioning is done in a correct way, you still don't want it to be dominant, because you may negatively affect the beautiful skills of these fighters. So I'm not saying that we have to get rid of strength and conditioning. I'm here to talk about strength and conditioning in the first place, but I want to make clear that it's not like in powerlifting, in weightlifting, in other sports where the neuromuscular component is dominant. The dominance here is tactical intelligence. Okay, so you are the crew Muay, or let's assume you are the crew Muay. The human body has a different level of complexity that you have to understand, because you are training a human being, and this human being will change as a result of your intervention when you are training the person in the camp. Now, I know in Thailand you like MotoGP. I like Formula 1 personally, so you made me change in the slides, because generally in UK I use the Formula 1 example, so here is MotoGP. So MotoGP is the equivalent of the human body, okay? So the MotoGP is made up of a number of different parts. And when you go back to the garage, the engineer and the mechanic will act upon these parts to make the motor going faster. And so you want the Nak Muay be more performant. But like what's happening now, based on tradition, is that you don't care about how the Nak Muay works. You don't care about how the human body works to adapt and to become better. You have to think about yourself like an engineer, the engineer of the MotoGP. The engineer of the MotoGP will go and see the mechanics and say, hey, the driver said that when the motor is in that part of the track, there is a problem. You need to change this. You need to change something in the engine. You need to change a part there. And this is something that we can do, because the equivalent of this part is a functional system, which is, for example, that's the example of the neuromuscular system. We have the muscle and the nervous system. Then we have the engine, which is the muscle. The muscle is producing the force, yeah? So it is the equivalent of the engine. Then we have the parts inside the engine. It's getting too complicated, maybe, I know, but we have the molecular level that is explaining why the muscle can produce force. Now, I'm not saying that the crew Muay should know about molecular level in terms of muscle contraction, but you have to be aware that when you're doing an exercises, these parts are altered as a result of what you're doing. It's like if the mechanic is changing a part of the motor, okay? So the equivalent here is the trainer knowledge. They span from physiology, which is the understanding of how the human body works, to the mechanics, which is the behavior that we can see with our eyes. When we are in the camp and we see the athlete sparring or doing exercise, what we can see is only this, but this is the result of all the other elements, and these elements are the equivalent of the parts that make up the motorbike. Now remember these slides, because now it becomes very important. So this is the fuel. So the NAC Muay requires stamina, recovery between actions around, VO2 max, muscle buffering, phosphocreatine. Then the VO2 max depends on the arterial venous O2 difference, the cardiac output. In turn, they depend on other aspects, and in turn, they depend on capillarization. So when you're doing high-intensity interval training, when you're doing slow-intensity, long running, and so on, you are changing these parts of your body. But if you don't know what you're doing, the motorbike may slow down. And you think that the motorbike will go faster just because it is a belief, but in reality you're changing something that you don't know about. So knowledge is necessary. Then we also have the engine. So the engine, we said, is the muscle, okay? So the striking performance can be described, in this case, for the upper limbs and lower limbs, because we strike with 8 different weapons, okay? And then we have the concept of effective muscle. If you are not rigid when you are striking, the energy that you are generating cannot be transferred to the opponent, to the target that is represented by the opponent. So we have to improve striking velocity, because there is some association with how hard we can strike. We have to improve impact force through development of muscle power, which depends on active stiffness, isometric strengths, which also depend on tendon stiffness, dynamic strengths, and the striking velocity may also have a component that is coming from the neural drive of the nervous system. So again, we have a number of parts, like I showed you before with the MotoGP, that you have to know about, because all the exercises that you do are somewhat changing these elements, but the goal is that you know how to control the change of these elements and not randomly changing something without knowing what you're doing. You rather stop training with a certain exercise if you're not sure what you're doing. Or you rather ask to an expert to know what you are doing. So this is an evidence showing that in Muay Thai, the anaerobic metabolism is very high. So Crisafulli in 2009, I think it was the first study simulating a fight using pads and measuring the excess of CO2. And like in this case, the higher the column, and the more important, the involvement of the anaerobic system. So this is a scientific evidence showing that in Muay Thai, we need high intensity. Then we have other evidence. This is an evidence coming from Cimadoro, 3 rounds, 3 minutes. In this case, it's not 5 rounds of 3 minutes Muay Thai, but we know the formats nowadays are changing a little bit for different reasons. The blood lactate is another proxy that is representing high intensity and anaerobic lactic metabolism. So high intensity again. If you're not happy, there is also another parameter, which is the rate of perceived effort scale, that is showing that after the simulated fight, the athletes were reporting very hard work, which is an additional evidence saying, hey, Nak Muay needs high intensity. So why tomorrow you go slow running? We have evidence here. And we have also showed that you waste your time, and you get tired, and you get injured, and you stop your career when you are 22 years old. A number of negative things, so think about it. 3 rounds, 3 minutes. So heart rate, first round, second round, third round. This is the typical heart rate that you generally see when someone is exercising. And my friend from Pitching D showed me how he was monitoring heart rate the other day when the athlete was performing pad work, showing that the heart rate as the round were increasing was also increasing, going close to 95%. And correctly, he was encouraging the Nak Muay to enhance the intensity when the heart rate was not high enough, because this is what we need, because when we measure it, this is what we find. So we try to match the need of Muay Thai, hence why it needs analysis. A beautiful study from Bhumipol 2023 and my colleague. So it's a beautiful study because they managed to do a match analysis of the Isuzu Cup. It was an important event. It was an important event, and we need many more studies like this, because we need to compare what is the demand when you're fighting in RWS, what is the demand when you're fighting in ONE Championship, what is the demand when you're fighting for another promoter, and so on, because we may need to train the athletes in a different way. But if we don't have this information, it's very difficult to tailor the type of training that we have to do, because this information is very crucial to understand what is the rest, what is, how long is the rest, how long is the effort, and so on. So this study is clearly showing Muay Thai regulations. Okay, if you want to understand Muay Thai regulations, so you understand a little bit science, here you can see Muay Thai regulations. So in the first round, they are basically warming up. It means that if they perform an attack that is 1 second long, they rest for 13 seconds after this attack. A warm-up. It's a warm-up. So hence why maybe just massage with Thai oil in the restroom is enough, because you're going to warm up during the first round, assuming that this is traditional Muay Thai, okay? Then, second round, we are building up, we are halved, basically, the ratio. But what it becomes interesting is round 3 and round 4, and I think Mathias can confirm that this is where you are winning or losing the fight, sometimes also round 5, but like in many cases, round 3 and 4. This is where, if you attack 1 second, you stop 2 seconds, you attack 1 second, it's very high intensity here. There is no joke. You're really fighting. You can tell from the data. Well, I'm telling you, you can tell from the data. And round 3 and round 4 are different from round 1 and round 2, and are also different from round 5. So it means that round 5, it's becoming again a little bit more sabai. A little bit more, not too much. Not as sabai as the first round, yeah? So why this is important? This is important because, for example, here we have from Franchini, Brazilian professor doing an amazing work in judo, and he's summarizing high-intensity training methodology that we can use. And what I want you to pay attention to is the bottom row, because it's showing that depending on the active time and resting time, we are moving from a goal that is more metabolic to a goal becoming a little bit more neuromuscular. Now, in Muay Thai, we span from metabolic to neuromuscular. So perhaps we need to have pad work, sparring, whatever other type of exercise you want that is taking advantage from all these methodology, indicating as a guideline the effort and the rest that you have to respect to improve the performance that is biased a little bit more towards metabolic aspect, or is biased a little bit more toward neuromuscular aspects. Okay, so a cross punch is a popular strike, I know, because in boxing we do it, in MMA we do it, in Muay Thai we do it, in many striking sports. And we can knock out the opponent, of course. There is a kid here, and that's what a cross punch is about. Stability and then strike. Someone would start thinking, cross punch, you have to synchronize the movement, kinetic chain, you're pushing with your rear leg, you're transferring the force. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So this is a real punch. Boxing, Floyd Mayweather, brilliant champion. This is a real punch. Don't tell me, yes, but it was losing the balance, but normally he would try to be balanced on the feet and punch. No, because he doesn't know. The opponent will keep moving. Sometimes he will punch like this, sometimes will punch with legs a little bit lower, sometimes will punch with a little bit less of balance, and so on. Then we also have another example with a knack Muay that is very stable and transferring all the power against the body of the opponent. This is where it may work, the kinetic chain concept, because we are building the power from the legs and then transferring everything through the trunk and then punching against the opponent as hard as possible. But remember, it's very unlikely that you strike as hard as possible during a real fight. That's another thing that sometimes we forget. Now, the problem is that from a motor control perspective, the body has to deal with a number of degrees of freedom. It means that the joints can move in many directions, and to achieve the same goal, you may have different solutions from a mechanical perspective. So visually, the movements look the same, but in reality, the control strategy changes all the time to satisfy a specific goal. The goal here is not to strike as hard as possible. This is what you think. The goal here is to strike as precise and as hard as possible, which make the story completely different. Because one thing is just hit as hard as you can, one thing is hit as precise and as hard as you can. And this has to be considered in training too. So how we manage the degrees of freedom? Well, how the brain manages the degree of freedom. We have mainly two theories. So the most common known is the complex control. So we believe that the brain will take care of each individual muscle, reorganize the movement, optimize the movement to maximize the impact force. That's what we generally tend to think. And then there is what is defined as passive motion paradigm. So depending on the task, the brain will just roughly start guiding the body towards the attractor. The attractor is the goal of the movement, and the body will self-organize, maybe using the parts of the body in an independent way to achieve this goal. So we break the kinetic chain deliberately, and in most cases, I think, in Muay Thai, this is what happens. Now, the typical kinetic chain is represented here, where from the foot, we push on the ground, the force is transferred, stifling, punch as hard as you can. It can happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it's probably not the case all the time. I think here, it's happening something completely different. The legs are only taking care of the balance, no force production. The residual force that the legs are producing may be transferred to the trunk and then eventually against the impact, but the primary goal of the legs is to balance, to have a stable base, to then generate the punch, perhaps with the trunk. I'm not even happy only with splitting the body in one part. I think that the arm is taking care of precision. So while you're striking as hard as you can, no, sorry, I said before, as precise and as hard as you can, you are developing power so that the legs are doing something to achieve this goal, as precise and as hard as you can. The trunk is developing the power because you have to achieve this goal, as precise and as hard as you can. The arm has another goal, which is tracking, because you have to be as precise and as hard as you can. So the body is independently working and generating the strike that is defined as precise, as hard as it can, taking into account all these constraints all the time. Now, sometimes we have to learn to think out of the box. I find this research brilliant. They wanted to understand how chimpanzee animals, develop power when they hit each other for the sake of getting food instead of the opponent doing this action. So what they found using a simulation study, is that those who were capable of striking as hard as possible in this case were those developing the highest amount of friction on the ground, the torque. So practically, let's say, the friction on the ground. So the effect of foot posture, the posture of the feet, on capacity to apply free moments to the ground, so the ability of create friction, to be stable, to be anchored to the ground, and then eventually strike as hard as you can. For me, is a brilliant evidence trying to suggest that the lower part of the body has a goal, the upper part of the body has another goal. But they're working together, but there is no kinetic chain, like there is no typical kinetic chain. I would like to perform some research if someone is interested to find out if from a mechanical perspective we can prove it or not. But logically, it makes sense to think that it could be like that because you have to observe the real fights. You don't have to look knack-wise hitting the pads. You don't have to look knack-wise doing exercises with peers. You have to look what happens in a real fight. How many times you are unbalanced, how many times you are balanced, how many times you're using truly full power, how many times you're not precise. This is what you have to train. You have to train all these situations. You don't have to train only the ideal situations because the ideal situations doesn't occur as often as you think in a real fight. Just ask real fighters. They will tell you. Speak with your fighters. Don't pretend that you know more than your fighters. Speak to your fighters. So then we have obviously the description of the different phases. And this is important for strength and conditioning because it means that each one of these phases we require a different set of exercises because these exercises are addressing only a partial component of a very complex movement that, as I described before, can happen in a very different ways. This is an example of a person striking the force plate, padded, otherwise we would get an injury, as hard and as precise as possible because I also have a precise target with the aim to measure whether there is a good compromise between how hard and how precise you are when you are striking. I don't care if you hit as hard as you can. I do care if you hit as precise and as hard as you can. It is a compromise. Yeah? You're not a weightlifter that you have to lift the highest possible weight. You are a fighter. You have to be precise in the first place. That's just an example of how the signal is recorded. So the frequency of the signal, we see the peak force, the peak impact force, the impulse, which is the area under the curve, the vibrations of the force plate, and eventually we can measure the speed of the punch, the maximum speed of the punch that maybe not correlated to impact force, but again, to a certain extent, who cares? Because you may strike suboptimally all the time, but it's more important that you are precise. So if you think about testing your athlete, try to find a way to measure alongside how hard he strikes, how precise he strikes. Okay, that's the fun, but then later on I will do the workshop where we're gonna go through all these exercises. So here I just want to show you in practice all this, what it means. Right, just keep the volume down because otherwise we don't understand. Bench press, you normally lie down on the bench, yeah? So I don't want you to lie down on the bench because I want you to engage the core. The core has to transfer the energy. So you really need to make sure that you're doing an exercise that is special or specific. We can argue whether it's more special or more specific. But like the most important point is that we all agree that this position is, makes more sense for a fighter than lying on the bench. Then I said before, I'm focusing only on specificity. Of course, we can also do the normal bench press, but this may be a topic for another time. I see a lot of people throwing the ball like the shot put in athletics. And I'm very proud that in Thailand there is a Muay Thai camp who stops doing this and is now trying to buy in this new exercise because they understood that you are impacting against the target. So even if you throw the ball as hard as you can, you are very explosive, but then you collapse when you are against the impact, when you are against the target, because you didn't build enough stiffness that is defined as effective mass in the literature. What's the point? So you're training a quality that you will never use in fighting because there is an impact. An impact requires a completely different set of skills from a neuromuscular perspective that have to be trained in a different way. So I move down here first. This is an example of challenging the athlete using two arms because I want to be a little bit more general deliberately for variation reasons, because maybe over this period of time when he was preparing for the fight, it was appropriate to do so. And then I would move to the more specific one, which is only one arm, because you punch not like Dragon Ball, yeah? You punch with one arm only. And I want the leg up, simulating a block, because when you are doing the check, you got to be balanced, and if you're not balanced in traditional Muay Thai, you lose points. You don't want to lose points. So why not transferring this concept also in training, where you have the position of your leg in the check position, like to take care of this problem that we may have when we're fighting. Yeah, being balanced all the time as much as possible. Another exercise, similar concept, but more challenging from a coordination perspective. Imagine you are about to reach for the clinch, at the same time you're not sure with your legs, so you're going to check. So again, you're going to put the athlete in a position that mechanically or visually is similar to what it can happen in the fight. Of course, the orientation of the body is the other way around, but if you want to become too specific, then you just do the skill. There is no need to create a specific exercise, because the most specific exercise is the skill itself. Another exercise that I don't get, I really don't get it. I really don't get this landmine where there are weights around, pushing like this. But have you seen someone punching someone there? Unless you're fighting Remy Bonyansky in the K1 10 years ago, it's 2 meters high. Why not just adding something that is sliding so that at least you reduce the trajectory a little bit? I'm not saying it will become straight. It can if you want, because it depends on the inclination of the barbell. But at least instead of going here, I will go in a direction that is more realistic, and probably I don't even need weight there, because if I need to do general strengths, I do something else, as far as I'm concerned. Because it's a very complex movement, as I said before. So these strengths may not transferable. I don't know, I don't have the evidence, but I have the hypothesis. If I would test it with very well-trained athletes, I'm not sure this exercise may work. But it works with all those who have never done it before. Remember what I told you before. It's very important. If you've never done it, it doesn't matter what you do. You will improve. So don't come and say me, yeah, but I do it, it improved. Yeah, of course. Let's talk in 2 years when you have been doing this for a while, and then we'll see if you still have the same level of transfer. Okay, let's move to the roundhouse kick, because it's the most important strike in Muay Thai, so pay attention to this. Here we have the kicks from a visual perspective, and also the diagrams that are showing roughly the positions, okay? One leg is supporting, the other leg is the kicking leg. Similarly to the punch, we have different phases, okay? The preparation phase, the forward swinging phase, the impact phase, and the recoil phase. We have to come back balanced, yeah? Coming back balanced is important, and we had a lot of fun with Puma at Pitching the other day, trying to figure out how to make a Nak Muay unbalanced and regain the balance using an elastic band in an alternative way, okay? And that's the reason why, because that exercise may be very useful for this phase, but not for the other phases, because you don't have one size fit it all. You have different exercises that will train different aspects of a movement, because it is a complex movement. Now I want to get a little bit more technical, just to give credit to Sid T. Lau. I don't know if the pronunciation is right, but it's probably, to the best of my knowledge, the first study attempting to study the mechanics of a middle kick. So he opened the bag, he placed a free axle accelerometer in the middle. The bag was 50 centimeters, weighing 40 kilograms, and the goal was to quantify the impact. Simultaneously, he was also measuring some mechanical parameters, kinematics parameters, so the movement, the linear velocity of the ankle, the linear velocity of the knee, the angular velocity of the other joints. Now, here you have the data set. I don't want to get too technical. I know in the audience, most of you wants to know about practical things, but it's important that you see this because you see where an exercise comes from. We are doing the engineers here. We're trying to understand what parts of the MotoGP we have to change to satisfy the demand of Muay Thai. So he found that Nak Muay, Thai Nak Muay, not Europeans, at impact, they strike approximately at 25 kilometers per hour. But this is ideal condition. That's not fighting, yeah? So this is you kick as hard as you can. So in fighting, maybe even lower. Then here we have the velocities that again, tend to drop for those that are not the best performance. And we have an hypothesis that we can build upon this data. Now, is this because they have a better technique, the higher level athletes? Or is this because there is a neuromuscular inhibition, because the brain is understanding an impact is going to occur, so deliberately slow down the velocity to reduce the risk of getting injured. So the training goes in the direction of reducing the inhibition so that you can keep high the final velocity when we are striking. Here you can see the chart that are describing the velocity of the ankle joint, the knee joint, on the horizontal plane. Here we have the thigh horizontal velocity, the knee, the angular velocity, sorry, the shank, again, the angular velocity, and we always have the same pattern. When we are reaching the impact, the velocity slows down. On top of kinematic data, we also have to understand the neuromuscular behavior of a strike. So we use the surface EMG. For those who are not familiar, the surface EMG is a way to quantify electrical activity of the muscle, and electrical activity is responsible of muscle contraction. So we use electrodes that are plugged on the skin. We can record the signal that looks like the graphic that you see here, and we can quantify the global activity of the muscles that we are under investigation. So here you can see obviously how it has been done. So we have electrodes placed on the leg while kicking the bag, okay? And then we can see here, in that specific instant, this is the activation of the gluteus max, and we have almost no activation of the vastus lateralis, which to me means that there is a moment during the kick that the vastus lateralis is not active. So there is a relaxation phase, whereas the gluteus max is active and hip extensor seems to be more important. Here we have another interesting chart showing just the representative trace of one person that is indicating an on-off, on-off, on-off pattern. Contraction, relaxation, relaxation. That's as an implication in training, because it means that certain exercises are better off being, better off training contraction and relaxation. We will see in the workshop how. I've been told I'm running out of time, so I need to rush a little bit more. I don't know if I will finish this in 5 minutes, unlikely, but I will try. This is another experiment where we try to measure the electrical activity when performing a middle kick with different overloads, with a weighted vest, with sandbags attached to the ankle joint, and free body weight, to understand what was the involvement of the neuromuscular system with these strength exercises. And here is what it looked like. Including the measures, where we are measuring the ultrasound to understand if there was an acute change of muscle architecture, activation of muscles using peripheral stimulation, and EMG during the kicking conditions. In this case, Viorel is hitting the bag with a sandbag, but then he has done the same thing with a weighted vest and the same thing without anything. So what we found is the sandbag and the vest obviously was generating higher level of neuromuscular effort compared to body weight. So we know that it's good to make these muscles involved in this action working harder. And we also found that there was a strong involvement of hip extensors, and perhaps because of the impact, the vastus lateralis and rectus femoris, but the limitation here is that we didn't synchronize the motion with the EMG, so I cannot conclude when this activation is happening, and it's inconclusive. But it's a good point to research further. Now, this is suggesting me that it's very likely that the power during kicks is driven by the trunk in the first place. With the motion that is starting with the arms, then the trunk will transfer everything to the hip, the legs will start swinging, and then there will be an impact. And we have an evidence, for example, in soccer, where they demonstrated that the energy is driven mainly by the trunk that is transferring everything to the hip, and then the leg starts swinging. It would be nice to do a power flow analysis in Muay Thai kick too. So it's like an arch, but we also need precision, as I said before. So this is what I also try to do in the gym. So more field-based data and not scientific data. The idea was to try to understand what's happening when we strike with the middle kick, with the motion that is starting with the arms. So don't think about the legs, because the legs is the result of it. How the arms are moving using a drone that you can see here, that is enabling us to see the horizontal plane of the movement, to then try to make up an exercise that is just taking care of the beginning of the movement. So that's a process that I want to show. It's a process. It's not like the best exercise to improve the middle. It's a process. It's showing you how you go from analyzing a movement to thinking about an exercise that makes sense. And I think, to me, this makes sense. Look at my arms, look at the position of the trunk. All I'm trying to do is to initiate the movement in a similar way as it happens when we strike with the middle kick. Of course, for the middle kick, we need other exercises, and these exercises are now summarized here. So we have exercises that will work for the impact phase, exercise will work for the initiation, exercises that are manipulating the rotation, because when we kick, we are making a rotation. I hear many crew Muay saying, do this. So this to me means rotation. So when we are doing some strength and conditioning work, we can think about finding an optimal way to introduce rotation. That may be an example. Overloading the trunk to enhance the inertia. It will be harder on the trunk muscles to stop this rotation and transfer the energy to the leg, and so it's a good conditioning, it's a good strength exercise. And then the impact phase, because when we impact, we have obviously the leg that is bent approximately between 20 to 60, 70 degrees, and so drop jumps are very good to enhance the stiffness at impact. Okay, last few things, and then I will leave the stage to Mathias. So for monitoring, it's just conceptual, because in this sport, it's very difficult to measure the performance, and I hope we can start research to find the best way to quantify research, to quantify the performance. But as it stands, we can use accelerometers that are giving us a parameter representing the maximal speed of the punch that is associated to the impact force, so it may be useful. We can use force plates, but it's not possible for everybody, but maybe someone can attempt to do it, to quantify directly the impact force. Obviously, we also need to account for precision. That would be ideal, and the problem is that we are only looking at the single strike, whereas in the real fight, what happens is that we are performing a combination, and this combination as a number of different strikes, and they all have to be as precise and as hard as possible. So testing going in that direction may be more interesting for this sport. I don't know how to do it right now, but I may think about it, but I think that's the direction we should go, thinking about developing tests. It is worldwide used, this test, to measure, to monitor fatigue, which is the counter movement jump. It's a jump that happens by bending the legs first and then inverting the movement and jumping as high as possible, because the parameters are generally associated with fatiguing status. Now, in some cases, the height of the jump is recorded, but there is research showing that the height of the jump is not always representative of fatiguing status, because the brain is capable of reorganizing the movement, even under fatiguing status, to achieve the same performance. So there are maybe other parameters that have to be looked at, more representative of a decrease of performance in Muay Thai. In fact, here, these are data that I've published in 2017, showing that after a fight of 3 rounds of 2 minutes, it was an amateur fight, there was no difference between the height of the counter movement jump before and after fatigue that was induced by the real fight. And so the first thing I said to myself is impossible that you're not fatigued. But then obviously learning a little bit more about that, I found out that the height of the jump may be not the best parameter you should look at if you are measuring fatigue. So we can use the force plate instead, because it gives us more parameters, and we have Gattercall that is suggesting us more interesting parameters that are more sensitive to the build-up of fatigue. And so these parameters may guide us to tell if the athlete is fatigued or not, to what extent is fatigue. And so I said, okay, let's try with just one person and see what happens if I try to apply this advice. And this is what happens. So when I was measuring the height of the jump, which is the red, after round 1, after round 2, after round 3, and 6 hours, after round 3, immediately after, the height of the jump was actually increasing. The athlete was tired, and he was jumping even better than before being fatigued by the fight. This doesn't make sense to me. But when I was looking at other parameters, like the peak force here, or even better, the eccentric duration, immediately after round 1, this parameter was decreasing, perhaps because it's more sensitive to specific Muay Thai fatigue. So it means that research is required to understand, if we use a counter movement jump, what are the parameters that we should consider representative of specific Muay Thai fatigue. We don't know, I don't know, but I think we should go in this direction if we want to implement the counter movement jump in our sport to better understand how to monitor fatigue, specific fatigue. Another way that we can deal with monitoring while waiting for more research coming up is to use analog scales. They've been validated, they are reliable. You obviously have to define a precise question, and you always have to show the scale to the athlete. Why? Because this is how they've been validated. So we know they work if you use them in the way that they are meant to be used, not like you wake up in the morning and you decide that you have to use it in another way, because they've been validated in a specific way, and that's the way you have to use them. And I want to give you an example here, taking advantage from the 7 Muay Thai camp, where here we have a well-being pre-training sheet that we can use to record the irritability of the fighter, the health status, the stress, the type of session that is going to be performed, training or fight, the level of fatigue that is perceived by the athlete, muscle soreness, sleep quality, mood, and so on. After training, we can then record other data. For example, rate how hard was the session, and leave a comment if you think you need to communicate to me something, and how long was the duration. Now I have a summary of another gym. It is unfortunately in Italian because I didn't have time last night to change the language, but I will translate for you. This is basically the chart showing you all the data that the athletes are entering in the sheet, and it's very much a good way to track and monitor what the athletes are doing. I think I'm finished. Just to point out a couple of research topics that I'm currently working on at the moment, impact studies and the use of virtual reality to improve cognitive elements. And then finally, I just want to say thanks to some colleagues that helped me to give me ideas for this presentation. Rick Mello, Sam Callaghan, Ryan Maffei, Roberto Casarino, and Luca Pigliafreddo. And thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Giuseppe. Terrific presentation. I'm sure that we have learned a lot, and it's not only Muay Thai, but also sport science. Muay Thai is truly fun to learn and so much to learn. I hope someday I fully understand what you have just lectured.
No, no. Okay, thank you, Mathias. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, you can hear me better, maybe like this. Okay, I don't need to shout. So I was saying we are going to cover what we have seen this morning in the lecture. We're not going to have the time to go into details of everything, but again, the main goal is understanding the principles. So we had two traditional beliefs addressed this morning. One was running, but I think theory was enough to understand that we can do different things. The other one was crunches, okay? So I would need 2-3 students who want to volunteer to practice. Is there anybody? Just 2 or 3 people. Otherwise, yeah, 2, 3. Okay, we can start doing some crunches the traditional way. You can guide them, and then I will comment. Yeah. No, let go. That's fine. Do whatever you want. Both. Okay, so this is what you would normally see in Muay Thai camps, right? Because it's the typical crunch that we see in gyms. Well, less and less, hopefully. We have a few problems. No, carry on. Okay, that was the goal. Okay, stop. So a few things that I pointed out this morning. The first one is the arms are pulling the neck, all right? So when the neck Muay is doing this exercise, at some point he will get tired. What happens is he starts pulling the neck more and more because he has to carry on doing volume of work, and to help with the movement, it will start adding strain to the neck. So that's the first problem. So, lontano. Okay. So the first thing we can do to address that is to cross the arms so that they are going to embrace the back of the shoulders or the scapula, and you can start doing again the crunches. So it's still bad, but it's better, but is struggling more already. Okay, so let's try now to put the arms in that position so that the neck, yeah, is just acting as a pillow, like if you're sleeping, yeah? And you go. Yeah? Yeah, that's better. Yeah? Okay, stop. Now, second problem, if you can lie down. When we go all the way up, we are doing crunches, but because we have a biarticular muscle here, the rectus femoris, once we go past a certain range of motion, most of the activation, the effort, goes to the iliopsoas, and it's not the rectus abdominis anymore. So,
one way to fix that is to start performing the crunch by pivoting only at the chest level. So rather than pivoting at the hip, we just squeeze, trying to pivot at the chest. Okay? Try. You go.
And go the way up.
Yeah? No, like this. Yeah? Let's try. All of you. Reo, 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 reo. Yeah? Oh, you want? But we don't have two microphones. Yeah, for the translation. Okay. Technical problem. We're gonna solve it now. So. Yeah? To translate? Okay, fine. Okay, so let's move on. No, I'm not saying what I've been doing so far is fixing all problems. I'm just showing you a progression to start fixing all the problems. All right? Now, if we go back in the original position, again, lying down. Okay, next we're gonna stop bending the spine at the lumbar level because we have fixed the problem at the neck by supporting the neck with the arms and embracing the scapula. We stopped going all the way up so that we can still activate the abs and avoid to activate the psoas, can do other things. Now we want to stop bending the spine because we have seen this morning it can be in the long run a mechanism of injury. So we take advantage from the suggestion coming from McGill where we're gonna set one hand underneath the lumbar spine. Yeah. Now, what you have to do, just stay here, like that. Okay.
ไม่ต้องกดอะไรเลยใช่ไหมไม่ต้องกด
One thing we're gonna do is to ask the neck Muay to push with the back the hand against the ground. Go.
This
Yeah.
one, yeah?
Yeah, the opposite, like this. Yeah? And now go the way up. The opposite, yes. You make a big curve. So you set in two wrong reference points so that the neck Muay is aware what is bad in one way, what is bad in the other way. So you can have a middle point considered to be the ideal. So once you let him experience this, you now ask to lock the pelvis. Okay, you don't have, no, don't bend. You just lock the pelvis, okay? Now, you breathe out as forcefully as you can, and you slide with the other arms going up and pivoting here. Yeah, I will show you. Well, I've got this. I'm not going to do it perfectly, but the idea is this one. So try to breathe out as forcefully as you can until there is no air anymore in the lungs. Okay? Pivoting here. You're down. Yeah, breathe in. Stay down, breathe in. Go. Take 3 seconds to go the way up. Only pivoting here. Go. 1, 2, 3. Go, 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 go. Out, 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 out. And relax down. Yeah. 3 seconds to do the movement. When you reach that stage, all the air is out of the lung. Yeah, you pivot here. You make sure there is no movement in this area at all. Yeah, you go up and breathe out, breathe out. Hard, 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 hard. Yeah, pivot here, not there. Yeah, yeah, here. Go. Out, 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 and down. Yeah, again. Go, go, out, 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 and okay, it's getting red in the face if you don't see. And I said this morning we can go up to 5 minutes. Yeah, so it's.
I'll fire this one in.
how far in this one?
Hmm?
This one, how far in?
Oh, in the middle. This is just a way to feel that you're not changing the position of the lumbar spine. Okay? So that's one way. Okay, you want to translate, right?
โอเคครับ อันนี้คือ วิธีแก้ปัญหาที่ว่า crunch ธรรมดาแบบเนี้ยมันจะทำให้หลังเสียครับ ก็คือกระดูกหลัง ถ้าเราเล่นแบบต่อเนื่องหลายๆปีครับ เป็น 10 ปีก็อาจจะมีแบบ injury ก็คือ injury ง่ายนี่แหละครับ แต่เขากำลังจะแก้ปัญหาก็คือจะปรับตัว crunch ธรรมดาอย่างเงี้ยให้มันดีขึ้นให้มันแบบ injury free ครับ แล้วก็ให้มันมีประโยชน์มากกว่าครับ ประมาณนี้ครับ
Ask them to try.
ลองไหมครับ ลองเลยครับ ต้องเอามือไว้ตรงนี้ครับแล้วก็เอาแค่หัวขึ้นครับ หลังก็แปรไว้ครับ ต้องหายใจเข้าครับ เต็มๆแล้วก็หายใจออกประมาณ3 วินาทีครับ ให้มัน
Yeah,
สุดครั
that's
บ
good.
แล้วก็ต้องสไลด์มือครับ สไลด์มือให้มันสุดๆแบบนี้ครับ โอเคครับ
Good. Yeah, that's good.
ไม่ต้องขึ้นไม่ต้องขึ้นครับ
Okay,
บล็อกไว้ตรงนี้ That's it
fine. Yeah,
Okay.
I think the message
อีก
reached.
แค่นี้ครับ
Right. So the second exercise that we have seen on the slide, just to stick to what we have done in the morning, was the bear dog. So again, we have the same principle. We're gonna set the spine in the neutral position, starting from like a mistake going all the way up, a mistake going all the way down. So we find the neutral position. Now from the neutral position, we simultaneously extend the leg and the arm. And the goal is to be as steady as possible and then come down, okay? This, and then come down. As I said this morning, you need a lot of progressions from this starting point because this, at some point, will become very easy. And obviously, there are strategies to overload to create problems, okay? So let's try this one, as simple as it looks, and then we see if we can add a bit of overload.
อันนี้เป็นวิธีเล่นกำดองอีกแบบหนึ่งครับ ที่ professor แนะนำมาครับ ชื่ออะไรนะ What's the name Bird Dog
Dog.
ชื่อ Bird Dog ครับ
Superman.
Superman ครับ มี2 ชื่อครับ มี Bird Dog กับ Superman
Okay, now let's imagine we have you can translate simultaneously. Let's imagine we have a foam roller. We don't, unfortunately, but let's imagine. Now, when he's doing the movement, you can set the foam roller here, and the goal is to make sure that the foam roller is not falling.
Okay.
So you are forcing the person to do the movement, keeping the spine in its neutral position. Yeah? Neutral position means we respect the physiological curves of the spine. So if we would have, we can try with this. Maybe.
We have the foam.
Okay, so set yourself in the position, maybe. Okay, a bit lower, only here, a little bit. No, you did this movement. Yeah, maybe stop, lock, yeah. I don't think we can achieve that because there is the fluid moving. We don't have a foam roller, but you get the idea, okay? You have to get the idea. If you would have a foam roller here, okay? Now, do the movement, go. So, the idea is the foam roller should not fall. Now, it's not his fault, it's because there is fluid in here.
ต้องจินตนาการว่าเรามีโฟมโรลเลอร์ตรงนี้ครับ เพราะอันนี้มันไม่ได้ ต้องมีโฟมโรลเลอร์แบบนี้ ถ้าโฟมโรลไม่ตกก็เราทำถูกต้องแล้วครับ แต่ถ้าตกก็
Okay, so this is a strategy to do some work in motor control with the coordination because you want to fix the posture first before to load the person. Now the next step would be to add, for example, sandbags. Okay, we can add sandbags here.
แค่คิดว่าเรามีโฟมโรลตรงนี้จะได้ตรงครับ จะได้ไม่ตก
Here and here. Try again. Okay, set the position first. A bit lower. Yeah, a bit lower.
He asked if he can lift the opposite hand.
No, this one and this one. Like this. Lock and come back. Come back.
โอเค เอาคืนที่เดิมครับ โอเค ลงที่เดิมครับ
Yeah. Make it tight. Lock. Lower. This. Yeah. And back. Come back. Okay? So that's the way. Next step. Let's say he's becoming as professional as Mathias was. Okay? So go again. Same thing. Go up. Up, 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 up. Lock, 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 lock. That's good. Yeah. Go, 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 go. Stop, stop, stop. No, stop, like this.
ค้างไว้ครับค้างไว้ครับค้างไว้ครับ
Good. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Yeah?
ต้องค้างไว้ค
So
รับ
you start adding some external forces to create unbalance here. Okay? Now I try with Mathias. Okay?
Let me explain first because
Yeah.
อันนี้เขาอธิบายว่าเป็นสเต็ปครับ ก็คืออย่างแรกต้องให้ posture ตรงครับ ถ้า posture ตรงแล้วก็สามารถเพิ่มน้ำหนักได้ครับ ถ้านักกีฬาเก่งแล้วก็คือ posture ดี แล้วก็สามารถรับน้ำหนักเพิ่มก็เอาไป push เอาแบบให้เขาแบบlose balance มากนิดหน่อยก็ได้ครับ แต่ต้องเป็นสเต็ปครับ ถ้าทำแบบนี้ตั้งแต่แรกมันจะไม่ค่อยได้ครับ
Okay, let's try with you. Okay, let's try the normal way first. So first thing is awareness of the position, posture. So, yeah, no, the other way around. A little bit more. More. Okay, stop. Lock. Now, no, when you lock, you don't have to move the pelvis anymore. Just push my hands out. Yeah. Yeah, like this one. Go. Yes, like this. Now relax. Yeah, move this backward, down. Okay, stop. Push my hand down. Okay. From that position now, you start doing the movement. Go. Yeah, whatever you want. Yeah, stay in position and back. Okay, and then again. Say, change what you want. Okay, again. Go. Okay, stop. Lock the position. Now resist my forces. Yeah, resist my forces. Yeah, resist my forces. Yeah, Muay Thai is balance. Yeah, or you lose points. We said so. Stay. Relax. Yeah. So that's what I said before. We start for something as simple because it's a principle, but then you have an athlete in front of you. I could not do this with him, but I can afford to do it with him. So we make it a little bit harder, right? Now, let's try the normal plank, the one that you have seen Buakao being very bad because 30 seconds is bad. 30 seconds, yeah. I can do 30 seconds now, maybe. Okay, let's try. Plank. Okay, relax. Okay, is relaxed. Okay, down. Okay, look. This one, and fist as hard as you can. This hard, as hard as you can. Yeah, here, as hard as you can. Okay, let's try like this now. Yeah, go. As hard as you can. As hard as you can here. Maybe lower, die. Hard. And push down as hard as you can here. Push down as hard as you can. Down on the ground. Push down. Yeah, with the toes. Yeah, on the ground. Stay below. Yeah. Go. Come on. As hard as you can. Behind the head. Come on. As hard as you can. Come on. As hard as you can. Go. Stop. No, because then, maybe someone say, yeah, but they're not Muay, they're strong, they can do things. No. There are ways to make things complicated, yeah? But posture first, yeah? Posture first, and then it's hard, yeah? I know you like it. We live far away. You're lucky because we live far away. Okay, now, I involve you again. You too. Who was laughing? Okay, now let's try to do the crunches now with the support. Now I need to move the audio here because otherwise I'm gonna destroy it. I think, yeah, thank you. I don't know. That's the first time in my life I'm coaching with the microphone in front of my face. Okay, so now if we have the support here, we are reducing a bit of pressure, so we can start doing what we were doing before. We can do our crunch, yeah? And we can go like, go up, that's fine. Yeah, I'm kind of supported here, so I can try to do this movement. Try. Mathias first and then the others. Take one, go. Yeah. Well, you have just to feel the support on the back, okay? And back as you've done before. Oh my God, look at that. Yeah, Raja Damner fighter, yeah? Look at that. Okay, let's try again. Okay, put your hands like this in the back. Okay, guys. So let's set the arms like this. You go as far as you can because you support the neck with the forearm. You don't pull it. You support it. Go a little bit more backwards. Yeah, bring your feet. Yeah, a little bit more. Okay. Now here you go up. Stop. Now go up. Stop. Now just stop here. Go up. Stop here. Okay. Yeah, a little bit lower. Yeah. Yeah, now try to extend. Yeah, go up, stop, go, extend, up, go, down, extend, go, up, stop, here. Now, you say, okay, why are you asking to extend? Because I'm thinking Muay Thai, yeah? We're in that position. Sometimes we are in that posture, we are moving kicks, but the range of motion is this one. Is not, I don't see Muay doing this when they move, yeah? They may just have this type of action or lateral flexion. So the range of motion is limited, so we can replicate it because this is what the Nak Muay needs. Now, because he's strong, well, let's pretend he's strong. Okay, now let's set yourself down again. Now, put your arms like this. Yeah. Hold this. Pivot here. You go. Up. Stop. Down. Up. Go. Stop. Down. Go. Yeah. And breathe out when you come up. Breathe out. And down. And breathe out. Yeah. Yeah. Go. Stop. Up. Go. Up. Okay. Right. So again, there are. You have to adapt with the athlete. Probably he cannot do this now, but because he needs to understand the movement. It's not because he cannot do it. He may be strong enough to do it, but he needs to understand the movement in the first place. Okay. Right. So let's move on now. We do the classical steer the pot exercise. I'm going to use the ball to demonstrate. So it's a progression from the plank, okay? So the standard exercise would be this one. Down, as hard as I can, down, and then I relax, very tense. The next step is this one. Yeah, here, and steer the pot. Steer the pot. Or faster. Back, forth. That's right. Yeah, straight. Yeah. And the posture here, a little bit lower. Yes, like this. And hold the position. Then you start doing it slowly. Yeah. The other direction. Try to imagine you want to draw your name with a ball. throw your name with the ball. Imagine those who have a long name, including a surname. Okay, and relax. Okay, so we are not wise, yeah? So that happens quite often, yeah? This, clinch, move over, that. So why not trying this? It's not a standard core exercise, but it makes sense for Muay Thai. So here, position, up, out, back, down, up, down, move, and challenge the core, trying to add a technical element, okay? Let's try again.
Let me explain this because maybe,
Yes.
yeah เขาให้ทำแบบนี้เพราะว่าเวลาเราชกก็จะมียกบังก็คือบังเตะไว้ก็คือเขาจะให้ขึ้นตรงนี้แล้วก็แบบขึ้นตรงนี้ เหมือนเวลาเราบังครับบังอาวุธ
Okay. Gli fai fare un blocco? Sì, se vuoi. Okay, stop. Again, you know, I repeat it again because it's important. These are examples as a starting point. You understand the concept, you understand the process, you understand the safety aspect, the self-awareness of the movement. If I'm teaching a middle kick, I am using a lot of care so that the middle kick is done right. If I'm teaching this, I have to put exactly the same care until the movement is right, and then eventually I will load it. If the movement is not right, you keep doing it easy. Because if you kick with a middle kick and the crew doesn't like it, he will keep shouting at you until the middle kick is right first, and then he will ask you to add power. You have to have the same approach for any exercise, any. There isn't an exercise that is more important than another one in training. They all have a place, and they all are important. Of course, you need knowledge, but this is you upskilling yourself and then progressing, okay? Right, now I think... Yeah, translate, thank you.
เขาบอกว่าเวลาเราเล่นexercise แบบนี้จะต้องดูแลเทคนิคเท่าที่เวลาเราดูแลเทคนิคแบบการเตะการต่อยอะไรเนี้ยครูมวยปกติก็จะใช้เวลานานในการสอนเทคนิคออกอาวุธครับแต่ว่าเราต้องใช้เวลาในการสอนเทคนิคเล่น exercise แบบนี้ให้มันถูกต้องครับเท่ากันเช่นกันก็คือใช้เวลาแบ่งเวลาให้เทคนิคแล้วก็แบ่งเวลาให้ strength training แบบนี้ครับ
Okay, can you start with some shadow boxing? Yeah. And then gloves on, and they take the power. Yeah, no, shadow boxing only now. Okay, I will just work a little bit with Mathias now, so you can sit if you want, and then I will call you back later. Okay, just do some shadow boxing just to start. Yeah. Okay, now I want you to observe Mathias not from a technical perspective. Well, in a sense, it's from a technical perspective. I want you trying to figure out how he's moving, especially when he's doing the cross punch. Okay, when he's doing the shadows and he does the cross punch, I want you observing exactly what is happening. Okay? Okay, work only with arms now, jab and cross, and increase the intensity in terms of imagine like you want to hit hard. Okay, would you say he's stable? Yeah, he's relatively stable. Now, let's say he's moving and he starts doing the same thing, and he has a target with the cross. Go. Yeah, go. Yeah, go. You see, he changed the strategy, it's subtle, but obviously now there is another element, which is he's not striking when he wants, he's striking when there is a target. That's happened. So the legs, maybe, as I said this morning, are starting to focus more on the balance to then have the goal to be precise and hard when we're punching. So we can start thinking that if I'm in the corner, I'm not moving, strike as hard as you can, well, pretend to, otherwise destroy my hand. Perhaps we're building the power from here and then going against it. But if I'm moving around, that is more or less likely to happen, you know? And I can see what he has done, naturally, is increase the speed and reduce the power because the goal is different. But that happens in fight. I asked him the question the other day, how many times happens in a real fight to hit as hard as you can when you're striking an opponent? Never. So as a coach, I ask myself the question, why do I train him to strike as hard as possible? Yeah, there is a place for this, of course, but I need to take into account what he's saying, because what he's saying me is that in real fighting, this is unlikely to happen. Now, I'm not saying that he shouldn't be strong to hit as hard as possible. I'm saying that you have to account all these constraints like balance and think that maybe the segments of the body, okay, are independently solving different goals that are not necessarily only hitting as hard as possible. He may be hitting, I tell you, in my opinion, he's actually hitting as hard as he can. But he's hitting as hard as he can, accounting for the constraints that are presenting in the ring. So that means that the body is self-organizing so that in that specific condition, he's hitting as hard as he can, but this is not the hardest that he can. So this is why perhaps sometime we have to start to address the complex strikes using exercises that are working, the balance maybe for the legs, the transfer of the force, the strength, the precision of the arm, and so on. Okay? So let's start with the first exercise we have seen this morning, which was basically here. Oh yeah, sorry.
To chance.
Yes.
เขาถามผมว่าเวลาชกมวยจะมีบางครั้งที่แบบออกอาวุธเต็มแรงไหมครับก็คือแรงสุดๆผมก็ตอบว่าไม่ครับเพราะว่าเวลาชกเราไม่เคยออกอาวุธที่แบบแรงเท่าที่เราได้ครับแล้วเขาบอกว่า can you come please เวลาคู่ต่อสู้จะอยู่แบบอยู่นิ่งอ่ะไม่ move ไม่ขยับเลยก็คืออาจจะข้างไว้ตรงมุมครับก็เราอาจจะมีโอกาสต่อยแบบแรงสุดเท่าที่ได้ครับแต่ปกติเวลาชกคู่ต่อสู้ก็จะแบบวิ่งไปเดินซ้ายเดินมาแล้วก็ถอยเดินอะไรเนี้ยก็เลยเราต้องหาวิธีแบบออกอาวุธแรงเท่าที่ได้แต่ต้องให้มันprecise เท่าที่ได้ด้วยครับแล้วก็คือที่เขาพยายามอธิบายเราไม่ต้องเน้นเรื่องแบบต่อยแรงที่สุดเราต้องต่อยให้ได้ให้แรงแล้วก็ให้มันโดนจุดที่เราอยากโดนครับก็คือต้องโฟกัสในหลายๆอย่างครับไม่ใช่โฟกัสในแรงอย่างเดียวครับประมาณนี้ครับ
Gloves on, please. Yeah. Ok, rifacciamo sinistro-destro. Okay, let me make this clear again. I want him to strike as hard as possible, and I will try to do strength training to increase maximal strength, to increase rate of force development, to make sure that if the condition is possible, he can strike as hard as possible. But I also need to account for other situations. So here he strikes normally, 1, 2, you go, yeah, go. Okay, now we build up, I know you know warmed up, so we'll build up like, you go 1, 2. Okay, a bit harder, a bit harder, a bit harder, a bit harder, harder, go, I, go, I, go, I, go. Okay. Guard position, yeah. Okay, so now I'm just forcing him to use the legs to balance because I want him to strike as hard as possible. Like when you are in normal guard. One will be the tip, the other one will be the foot. Up to you, up to you. You manage the control. It's your problem, not mine. Yeah? Oh, easy, easy. 1, 2. Yeah, go. Ah, go. Go. Harder. Oh, harder. 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 Yeah. Now, let's think about this. The last... Sorry, is that for me or for him? Ah, okay. I was saying, okay. The last 2 punches, I have clearly seen this. Now, I don't have a load cell in my hand. I don't have an accelerometer. But by experience, he was hitting hard. Now, if it's true that we are building the force from the leg and then everything else, why was hitting hard? Because the body is creating another strategy. So the strength and conditioning work has also to go in the direction where the training is done to face also these situations. He's self-organized himself to do the best possible to stabilize the trunk, and the power very likely, without measuring it objectively, was initiated by the movement of the trunk, the shoulders, and then precision controlled with the arm. So let's move forward now. Go here. You can take this out. I need you. Come here, please. Okay, so Mathias, you will set yourself in the position. Well, no, actually, let's do it normal way first. Yeah? That position, I will give you probably the kettlebell or the dumbbell. Here, up, down. Yeah? We take the heaviest one. Rajadamner fighter, heaviest.
One?
Yeah, just one. Ok. Come vuoi, così? Sì. Come sei confortevole. Fa niente. Ce la fai? Ok, estendi le braccia. Ok, vai giù. Ok. Sì, sì. E poi su. Controllo il movimento, vai giù. Controllo il movimento, vai. Okay, maybe it's the first time he's doing this exercise. So, and you would normally expect that the control is what you see. That's normal. It's your job to make him doing better. Okay, down. Again, control as much as possible here. Okay? And up. Yeah. I don't care about the speed now because he has to learn the movement first. Go. Yeah. Go. Okay, stop. I think it's decent now. Now we change the posture. And we're gonna basically stay on the bench, only sitting on the upper part of the scapula in that position. Okay? Again, with the dumbbell in the hands. We're gonna do the same thing, and then we ask a feedback because, you know, he knows better than me what he's feeling. Okay, hands up. Sì, sì, sì. Okay, down. Keep this up now. Lock everything. Go, down. Up, down, up, down. Te la senti di farlo esplosivo adesso? Vai. Sì, vai. Giù. Più esplosivo, vai. Dai, no, cerca di andare più veloce che puoi, vai. Sotto, vai. Sotto, vai. Ok, non muovere qua. Sorry, don't move your pelvis. Now I'm gonna do this action so that I activate a reflex response to further activate the transversus. Yeah? If I do this, you should feel that, you know, automatically you want to contract even more. Okay, down, keep and up, down, and keep it up, down, keep it up, down, keep it up. Okay, stop. Now, normally we would attach this here, not because, okay, that's it's a good example to say something else. I'm gonna attach the elastic here, not necessarily because I want the elastic to push him down. And if I post this exercise on Instagram, I would expect nobody copying it, because they may don't know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, okay? So the only reason is that as I tend to move my arms explosively, I tend to detach my body from the bench, okay? It can happen. So the only function of the elastic for me here is to keep him down, to help counteract the forces that he's pushing up. So don't think I saw an elastic, it means it's a fancy exercise. There may be a function that you don't know, so send a text to the person posting the video and ask what was the goal of the exercise first. Then you think if you need it. Very likely you don't need it. You need to make your own exercise up. And then if you really need it, then use it, okay? Right. The next step here would be, for example, using a lighter dumbbell, doing same position, okay, with your cross punch arm. The other one will be lying here, this one here, starting from that position. Now, with this exercise, I am only, I'm only working the beginning of the movement, the rate of force development to do this action. That's the only function of this exercise. I don't care about the full extension. I don't care about the speed. I do care only about one thing. Even if we cannot quantify it, it has to be as fast as possible the first 100 milliseconds of the movement. So it has to be, hey! Hey! I don't care if then it slows down. What is very important is the very beginning. So we're gonna set him properly first, okay? Bring your feet back a little bit more, okay? A little bit higher, stop, lock. Now, yeah, ready, and go! Yeah. Down, keep the shoulders down. Yeah, ready, go! Stop, down. Ready, and go! Down, stop, okay? And relax. That's all it is for, in my opinion, because we're working only a segment of a complex motion, okay? It does not exist an exercise that is more specific than hitting the pad, because you do the real skill. You're building up different elements that they make sense. Sometimes we can use evidence because the literature can help if there are sound experiment guiding. If not, we have to use a bit of logic. We have to try to craft the knowledge that we have and go in the direction that is likely correct. Even if we don't have scientific evidence, we may have practice-based evidence using all this knowledge that we have around. Okay, now Mathias, I ask you to work a little bit if it's possible. Can you teach 2 or 3 of them, 4 maybe, you need a pair number, the basics of the clinch? No pads, the basics of the clinch. Just go and tie for a few minutes, yeah. Until you, yeah, you teach and you do it until you think they kind of okay for a basic move.
มีใครอยากเรียนปล้ำไหมครับ การปล้ำเข้ามาเลยครับ
Without unbalancing, just the basic. When you think they have a good basic, you start making them feeling a bit of unbalancing, yeah? At least 4 of them so they can work together.
ขอ4 คนได้ไหมครับใครก็ได้ครับ so Giuseppe you want me to pair them up
Huh?
you want me to pair them up
Yeah, just the guide you the
4
expert.
คนครับรบกวนถอดรองเท้าได้ไหมครับ
Yeah, let's go here. There is space and it's not dangerous.
โอเคจับคู่ครับก็คือโอเคคู่นี้กับคู่นี้มาตรงนี้ครับ you wanna Giuseppe
Yeah, go.
you be my partner so I can show them or what do you wanna do okay
Just to,
Okay.
because I can prepare what we need.
ยืนตรงยืนข้างหน้าครับแบบนี้โอเคมองหน้ากันโอเคการปล้ำก็คือมันจะต่างกันต่างกับการชกธรรมดาก็คือเวลาเราชกเราจะยืนกัดมวยแบบนี้ก็คือถ้าเราเป็นมวยขวาเราจะยืนกัดซ้ายก็คือขาซ้ายอยู่ข้างหน้าถ้าเราเป็นมวยซ้ายก็จะเอาเท้าขวาอยู่ข้างหน้าครับแต่เวลาเราเล่นปล้ำก็คือเวลา ก็กอดกันแล้วก็ทีเข่าอะไรประมาณเนี้ยครับต้องอยู่แบบนี้ครับต้องอยู่ horizontal ครับไม่แน่ใจว่าภาษาไทยต้องพูดยังไงครับโอเคนะครับโอเคที่สองก็คือ posture ครับ posture จะต้องตรงครับถ้าเราเอียงเข้าไปแบบนี้ก็จะเสียหลักง่ายครับถ้าเรานอนแบบนี้ก็เช่นกันครับก็เลยต้องพยายามให้ posture ตรงครับแล้วก็คอก็ต้องสตรองครับต้องแข็งแรงครับโอเคเดี๋ยวแป๊บนึงโอเคเอามือซ้ายไปแปะตรงขอเพื่อนโอเค posture ครับ posture ขึ้นโอเคครับเอามือขวาไปแปะตรงนี้ครับโอเคมือขวาแปะตรงนี้ครับโอเคครับตรงนี้ครับโอเคตอนนี้พยายามเข้าศอกซ้ายของเราไปโดนหน้าอกของเพื่อนครับแต่ต้องชิดกันหน่อยนิดนึง posture มันต้องตรงครับ posture แบบเนี้ยอย่าแบบนี้ครับโอเคครับผมอย่าพึ่งเอาข้อศอกไปติดตรงนี้หน่อยเอาข้อศอกไปติดตรงนี้หน่อยโอเคposture ครับ posture โอเคทีนี้เราจะลองทีเข่าดูครับก็คือไม่ต้องใช้เข่าครับเวลาเราซ้อมเราใช้อันนี้ครับใช้ข้างในขาครับประมาณนี้ครับใช่ครับแล้วก็ให้มันโดนตรงเนี้ยไม่ต้องให้ตรงกระดูกครับเดี๋ยวเจ็บโดนตรงนี้ประมาณนี้แหละ
Make them turn now.
turn each other โอเคอย่าเพิ่งโดนตรงนั้นนะโดนตรงนี้แหละโอเค
It will not
โอเค
become
ตอนเนี้ย
an act
เวลาเพื่อนออกเข่าเราต้องดึงครับดึงอย่างนี้เดี๋ยวให้ดูนะเพื่อนออกเข่านะจินอคเกียวเราต้องดึงครับเราต้องใช้มือแล้วก็ใช้ตัวครับดึงปุ๊บอย่างนี้ลองดูครับไม่ต้องแรงมากนะดึงนิดหน่อย
Stop.
โอเคครับหยุดครับ
Microphone down.
เขาให้หยุดครับสต็อปก่อน
So,
สต็อปก่อนครับโอเคครับหยุดก่อนครับ
Okay.
หยุดก่อนครับ
Yeah.
แป๊บนึง professor สั่งหยุดครับ
They are enjoying it. Yeah, I know, but yeah, that's very good. Okay, cool. So it means clinch is enjoyable activity because better than crunches
เขาบอกว่าสนุกกว่าเล่นกับท้องไหม
until you don't get
เขา
the
ถาม
knees.
สนุกกว่าเล่นกับท้องไหม
Okay, so I asked Mathias to do this so that again I hope that in your mind you were thinking what's happening when they are moving. Okay, of course they don't have the skills of a professional like Muay right now, but he made sure that the posture was sound, they were rigid, and then he started to teach basic of lifting the knees to hit and then turn to move the balance. Now we have to go into strength and conditioning. I'm not going to explain it. I just want you to tell me what you think. Yeah?
เขาจะไม่อธิบายครับเขาจะให้เราคิดเองว่าเราคิดยังไงอุ้ย
Huh? What do you think?
คิด
Am I
อะไรครับ
applying the principles?
คิดว่าอะไรครับ exercise ตัวนี้ครับ
Am I applying the principles?
เขาถามว่าเขา
But I'm not happy because it's a good general exercise, right? But, you were translating.
no it's fine no worries
It's a good general exercise, but the weight is here. In most cases, sometimes you close by here.
เขายังไม่พอใจครับ exercise ตัวนี้ครับเพราะว่าน้ำหนักมัน
Here, here, 1, 2, yeah, again. Ooh, okay, I'm exaggerating, but that's the idea. So I start having something where you think is relevant?
yes
Try. Yeah, you know the clinch better than me. Moving forward now. Yeah. Try maybe, like if it's the neck. Put towards you, up, and then move as fast as you can, rotating without losing the balance. Without losing the balance. And when you turn, lift your hand like if you're blocking, or you want to throw a knee. Hands up. Why you rotating? Lift your hand. Yeah. Because you lose the balance. Okay, be careful behind you. Okay, stop. Progression. Same thing. Yeah. I just simulate the clinch. Okay. 1, 2. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. Progression. That's why maybe this is easy for him. Maybe not easy for them if I ask them to do that. And that's why before I was saying, don't copy the exercises, because this may be a great exercise for him, but it's nonsense for him. This will make sense to him. Yeah, yeah. Ay. Ay. Yeah, you're the expert of the clinch. I'm the expert of loading you. Harder. So when you turn, but wait, when you turn, really, really go for it. Yeah, and keep your hands up then. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Stop, okay, progression. Down. Let's challenge coordination. Different weights, okay? One side, one weight. The other side, the other weight. So try. Now, you are responsible of the intensity of this drill. If you just have fun, it doesn't work. You go for it. Stop. It's like Roberto. Round 4, he's losing, he has to win, and he has to do clinch. Turn it, go! Turn it, go! Come on! Turn it! Giralo! Giralo! Stop! Huh? You have to participate. Not bad. I know. I know. I know. Okay, guys, unfortunately, the time is over. And I'm sorry because I moved the lab from the university because I could stay other 2-3 days, maybe 2 months or 1 year. But Professor Niram Lee is saying we have to finish, and I just want to thank you again for coming. Thank you again for inviting me. It's been a true honor for the first time in Thailand speaking about Muay Thai in front of Muay Thai community. I am really, really honored. Thank you very much. Le capisci le nostre telefonate adesso? E dico, Robby, fai... Sorry guys, one last thing, because that was very important. We cannot do it. Just show it very quickly. Because we have a lot of rotation in Muay Thai, rather than as I see on YouTube, but lucky enough I tend not to copy. So they would all do this. Yeah, do you agree? But we're not soccer players. Yeah, we are Muay Thai. Muay Thai. This. Okay. So what about? Yeah, work your footwork with what you need, not with what you see on YouTube. Yeah? Okay, that's it.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, yeah, I thought that you would get some very good practice from them. All right, okay, I would like to take this opportunity to invite Associate Professor Torsak Keo Chalat Vilai to deliver the talk and appreciation. Thank you. Thank you. Right now, a group photo. Can everyone, can you come to take a picture with the keynote speakers? ถ่ายรูปครับถ่ายรูปรวมครับเชิญเลยครับเชิญเลยครับ
Okay, guys, time for group photo. Everyone move in the front. Group photo together right here, please. นะครับเชิญครับถ่ายรูปหมู่หน่อยครับ Okay, student, you also on the group photo, please. Okay, the first row, please sit down. Second, hand on the knee. Okay, everyone, let's take 5-minute break for the coffee, and then we will come back to the conference. Okay, 5-minute break. Okay, 5-minute break, and then come back. Here, we will continue the afternoon program after the break. Load.